G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to Cold Waters with Mags, and welcome to the beta build of Cold Waters, where finally the much awaited South China Sea campaign is now available. Now, the South China Sea campaign is based in the year 2000, and you take command of either a 688 attack submarine. The new update involves or includes a couple of different variants of the 688, including the improved variants, or, of course, the Seawolf-Class, which is the newest addition to the game. Now, the Seawolf-Class is, even today, one of the single most advanced submarines ever created. The easiest way to describe the boat is just better. It submerges from the surface quicker, it changes depth quicker, it turns quicker, it's faster, it's quieter overall, it carries significantly more weaponry of all types. It is just a monster, but it came at a cost. The expense to build a Seawolf is so expensive that the US have only ever actually built 3 of them. The Seawolf, commissioned in 1997, that carries the name of her class. The Connecticut, that was commissioned in 1998. Now, these are 2 identical boats overall. And then there is the Jimmy Carter. The Jimmy Carter is a modified version of the Seawolf, commissioned in 2005. It's about 30 meters longer overall and contains a new section known as the multi-mission platform, which is essentially a very complex airlock system that allows for submerged deployment of specialist personnel for specialist missions. Or at least that's the very simple explanation as to what the system is. Anyway, today's mission. This is the first mission I've been given in the South China Sea campaign, and our mission is to blockade Hong Kong. Now, we've managed to catch this target fleet just on the outskirts to the southeast of Hong Kong, but as we are so close to Hong Kong, we do have to be aware that we are in shallow waters here. Now, we've identified 2 Chengdu class frigates and a Romeo class submarine. I'm not entirely sure why the Romeo's here, to be honest, but we still have contact Sierra 2 to identify at this point, and it looks like we have just managed to identify our transport. So, 1 merchant that we can see, 2 frigates, and an old 1950s diesel-electric submarine versus the single most advanced submarine in the water in the time frame of this campaign. Yeah, this hardly seems fair, does it? But I don't pick the targets, this is just what I've been given. So, I am a little curious on exactly how close I'll be able to get the Seawolf, because again, I play on elite difficulty level, which nerfs or debuffs, or whichever way you want to look at it, artificially reduces the performance of your submarine's sensors and boosts the performance of the ships that you're facing. And since the Seawolf and the Chengdus, and in fact all the Chinese boats, are brand new to the game, I'm a little curious on exactly how close I'll actually be able to get one of these things. I mean, at the moment I'm about 2 kill yards away from that Chengdu, and I'm only at 8 on detection. So generally the way it works is most surface ships and submarines won't react to active sonar until you get to a detection rating of about 10. So we're close, but at 2 kill yards I'm still far enough away to not be detected by active sonar. That being said, it's probably not a great idea to get too close to these targets because we are just off the coast of Hong Kong. So the chances are the Chinese are going to have aircraft that can get very, very close to us very quickly. And we've just detected a new contact, Sierra 5, which I have not identified. And it looks like the Chengdu did hear the launch transient. It's turned towards the torpedo. That's an interesting choice. As a general rule, when ships detect a launch transient, they will turn away from the torpedo and try and run. There's very little point to it, but they will try it anyway. With this change, I haven't had a chance to read through the full patch notes yet, so I don't know whether or not they've had a play with how the AI reacts. I have noticed that ships are doing things slightly differently than they have in my previous campaign, so hopefully they have made some AI improvements. That said, that Chengdu ended up pulling directly into the torpedo, and that's all she wrote for that one. Now, I'm manually guiding Torpedo 5 here around the wreckage of our frigate, and I'm going to go on active sonar. As you can see, we've lost contact with the transport that I was looking for. I'm going to use the active sonar on the torpedo to locate the transport. And the Romeo has fired 2 torpedoes in our direction. And Sierra 5 is a second merchant ship, which means it is a target. Now, my original thought here was to actually turn the Seawolf into these torpedoes and go between them. It's something that I have done before, but I was very late making my choice for that one. Torpedo 1 has already gone live. Torpedo 2 is likely to go live at any given moment, so I can't afford to try that. At this point, it looks like I'm not going to be able to avoid all those torpedoes. And speaking of planes coming from the shoreline, that is a sonar buoy dropped in the area just to make life a little bit more difficult. So, Torpedo 5 has acquired our transport and is now tracking. Now we can leave that torpedo to do its thing. We've got to work out what to do with these two, because I cannot dodge these two torpedoes without revealing my location, and I'm not going to be able to outrun them either. The Seawolf's fast, but the torpedo is always faster. So I'm going to make my move on this torpedo, and we're going to start off by dropping a noisemaker out here at distance. I want something that's making noise away from where I'm going to be starting my dance with the torpedo. Now we do have the wreck of the frigate off our side that we may be able to use as well. So first trick is to drop depth as quickly as I possibly can and try and get under the search cone. With the torpedo turning in my direction, hopefully it will detect the noisemaker, which it's done. It's now heading for the noisemaker. As it turns away, I'm going to turn in the opposite direction to what it's turning to put the torpedo directly to my rear. And our torpedo has now taken out the transport. So that's one mission objective taken care of. Now our next step, fire a MOS directly at the torpedo that's going to be coming for us in just a few seconds. Now the reason I'm doing this is this torpedo, it's going to detect me. There's nothing I can do about that. So what I'm going to do is catch the torpedo, slingshot at 180 and send it back towards our MOS. Now we're going to start off by dropping a noisemaker. That will cause the torpedo to lose track. I'm going to pull in above it as it makes its left-hand turn. We're going to turn with it until it starts to out-turn us, then reverse the turn. And as it comes back around, it's going to detect the MOS from behind, which is now moving away and has been moving away from our position the whole time. By the time that torpedo makes it to the MOS, realizes the MOS is not in fact a submarine, and makes a 180, we should be outside of its detection cone. So that should be the end of that torpedo. Now, as a general rule, with a single torpedo in a situation like this, I would rather not use a MOS and just outmaneuver the torpedo until it loses track. But unfortunately, because we're so close to Hong Kong, we're only in around 300 feet of water, which really limits the amount of maneuvering you can actually do. And being this close, anything above about 15 knots runs the risk of starting to cavitate, which, well, we don't want to get the attention of those aircraft that we definitely know now are floating around directly above us. Now we still have that second transport to take out, but it's only got a maximum speed of 16 knots, so I don't see it getting too far at this point. But we still do have that second frigate, and we have ourselves a Romeo-class submarine that fired those torpedoes in the first place to our north. Now we've lost track of the Romeo, but the frigate is heading in our direction. And it's worth mentioning that the last time that I was near one of these things, I got to within 2 kilojards and it still couldn't see me on active sonar. So it has no idea where I am with all the noise that's in the water and me running silent. So this is going to be a slaughter, but I don't want to engage it just yet, not until I have a fair idea where the hell the Romeo's gone. So we've been making about 10 knots towards the target for about 3 or 4 minutes at this point, and the frigate has just hit an active rating of 10. So at this point, we're going to have to put her on the bottom. We still don't know exactly where the Romeo's gone, but she's clearly running quiet at this point, so she'll only be doing about 5 knots. So she's not far away, we just haven't been able to hear her. They can be surprisingly quiet. We are, however, getting a ping from the northwest, so I reckon that is probably her. Torpedo in the water. And there's the Romeo, she has reappeared. Torpedo heading for the surface. And looks like the frigate has been acquired. We don't have a visual on at the moment, but if the torpedo can hear her, that's good enough for me. Now I'm just ignoring the Romeo for the moment. Even though she's actively pinging, it is pretty clear that she cannot hear me, and at the moment I don't know what direction she's heading in, and I would like to know that before I start launching my torpedo to intercept. And there is the frigate, and down. So that is the second Chengdu down. Now we've just got to deal with the Romeo. Now, I've got a fairly good idea where the Romeo is because she is actively pinging, which is giving away her location. She is directly along the bearing from the ping we're detecting, but I don't know which direction she's heading in. So what I'm going to do is fish her out using the torpedo. Just bringing the nose around to make sure we don't suffer a wire break here, because I'm going to be doing a little, or potentially doing a little maneuvering with the torpedo. We're going to fire the torpedo, wait till it gets relatively close, and then go active and use the torpedo's active sonar to finalise the location of the Romeo and put her under. Now, I actually haven't spoken about this just yet, but it is worth pointing out, although I'm sure you've already noticed. The quality of the ocean floor, and in fact the quality of the submarines in general, has increased with this patch. Clearly there is now some clutter on the ground, the textures for the ocean floor are much higher. The scatter of what looks to be an ocean kelp to give it a little bit of something for the environment, a little bit more interesting than just a smooth floor, is also present now. It's something that hasn't been in the game previously, and the 3D models of the submarine seem to be using a higher number of polygons and have higher textures as well, so it looks much nicer. It's still not, you know, current level AAA graphics, but it still looks great. Now the torpedo's away. Now I'm just turning the torpedo manually away from our direction a little bit, so when the sonar goes active, it's not quite in line with us, so if we get a reflex shot out of the Romeo, the torpedoes are unlikely to head directly at us. Give us a little bit of maneuvering space. Active sonar has acquired the Romeo. And I'm just getting ready to maneuver at this point because I'm expecting a reflex shot. However, she doesn't fire one. Too little too late with the countermeasure, and that is the Romeo dealt with as well. So with that, the only ship we actually have left to deal with is that last transport that has been running for some time now, but it only has a maximum speed of 16 knots. Now if I put this thing down at about 300 feet, just off the bottom of the ocean floor, I should be able to maintain around about 20 knots in the Seawolf without cavitating, so I won't gain the attention of the sonar buoy that's hit the water or the aircraft that are flying around, but I will be able to close the gap on our transport as it runs. And at 20 knots with the sonar equipment on the Seawolf, I should be able to maintain contact while doing that speed. And so we finally catch up to the target. Now as you can see, it took quite a run. It was actually about 15, almost 20 minutes to actually close distance, as our closing speed is only 4 knots. Now, the Seawolf will do 35, but at this step it's going to cavitate badly, it's going to give away our location, and I didn't really want to do that. But we're now at acceptable torpedo range. I don't have much information on the target, but it's pretty clear exactly where it is. Its direction of travel on the map is completely giving away where it's going, and as we said, its top speed is only 16 knots, so there's no way known it is going to outrun this torpedo. So, once this one sinks home, that's all she wrote. So a couple of little extra bits on the South China Sea campaign. The first thing I've noticed is it is very claustrophobic. I've had a lot of fights in my practice runs of the campaign before starting this one. Because the initial engagement area is in a very tight-packed group of islands with a lot of bottlenecks and a lot of Chinese ships within the area, you can get into a situation where just sitting stationary you will get engagement after engagement after engagement very, very rapidly. On top of that, due to the proximity to the Chinese coastline, I've also noticed that it doesn't really matter where you engage. If you engage on the left-hand side of the map, you can pretty much guarantee that the Chinese fleets will have air support in the form of torpedo bombers. And close to the coastline, even on maps where you are facing just submarines, you will find helicopters coming off the shore showing up to give support. The difficulty of the ships I've encountered so far doesn't seem to be particularly high, but what I have noticed is in comparison to the European campaign, the volume of ships you're encountering is significantly higher. Not just in the terms of the size of the fleets, although this would be one of the smaller fleets that I've actually encountered, but just those constant attacks. I can see situations forming where players will probably have to avoid combat and leave, or run the risk of running out of torpedoes before they actually get to mission objectives. And because your main base of operations is Guam, which is completely on the opposite side of the map, as far away from the engagement zones that you will possibly be able to get, or at least the common engagements I've been getting so far, that need to go home and pick up more torpedoes, it's likely going to cause a few failed missions. And there it is. The blockade of Hong Kong has been successful. So anyways, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed the video and thank you very much for watching. As always, remember to check the video description down below for links to all of my social media and to my Twitch channel. Also, I am partnered with Fanatical now. If you're looking for some cheap games on Steam, feel free to use the link in the video description down below and check out to see whether or not you can find yourself a deal on maybe a game that you've been looking for. And until next time, remember to click that like button, share and subscribe if you want to see more, and as always, take care.